Living Life, and I just got back in the car from going to lunch. I met some friends for lunch, and I just have to share a couple of things because this is just too funny. If you're not a woman over 50, feel free to click off and go do something else because you're probably not going to be interested in this video at all. If you're over 50 and you're a woman, you might appreciate this. Stick around. Yeah, I had lunch with some friends, and we were all talking about how, at least for me, my experience of when I first turned 50, I felt a little invisible at first. So, like, I just noticed, it was subtle, but I would go into places and I would just notice that I wouldn't get the services quickly. And I know some of that is culture. You know, a lot of my friends who are about the same age will say the same thing, that they sort of went through this time where they felt invisible. Well, I also am a firm believer in, you know, you teach people how to treat you. And I also think if you're going around with that attitude and you're telling yourself, I'm invisible, while the universe sort of serves that up to us. So I've kind of gotten over that. But one of the things I notice I've done is I've compensated in a new way, because whereas I feel invisible, I also feel, well, I don't feel invisible anymore, but I've learned for some reason as I've gotten older that I'm by far more willing to just do something to be seen. Like if I'm feeling invisible, I'm not getting the service, I just kind of will, I don't mind saying something silly or just, you know, and I'm going to give you guys a couple of examples that are kind of extreme, but they're just so darn funny. And these aren't things that I did, and I hope my friends don't mind me sharing this story, but it's just too hilarious not to. And I'm not going to be giving any names, so you can't identify these people, but they're good friends of mine who shared this. So, all right, so one was telling me about a friend who went to a store, and now this is a woman over 50. I don't know exactly how old she is, but she went to a store, and she felt like they had advertised something, and when she got to the store, it was false advertising, she called it, because they didn't have the item, or they said they wouldn't sell it to her for that price. It was a mistake. It shouldn't have been advertised. But she had the advertisement, so she called 911. Now, my daughter's a 911 dispatcher, so before you say, well, that was a waste of resources, let me tell you, 911 dispatchers get all kinds of calls. So I'm sorry that somebody doesn't find that funny, but she called 911. I don't think they did anything, but she felt better. All right, so another one. This is the last example I'm going to give you of how us women over 50 sometimes compensate. Like, we just, when you do stuff like this and you're young, people just think you're dumb. But when you're older and you do things like this, people seem to be more tolerant, and I guess they just chalk it up to, oh, I guess you're just older. So maybe they expect us to do stuff like this. But so my friend's husband was in the hospital, and he was on the cardiac floor, and he was having an ear problem. Well, he kept the doctor, when he checked in, they told him, well, they'll look at it when you're on the floor. I mean, he was in the hospital for, you know, more serious problems. Obviously, he was on the cardiac floor, but he had some serious ear issues. Well, they wouldn't address it. They kept telling him, well, you'll address that with your primary care. But the problem was he'd been in the hospital for like 3 days, so on the cardiac floor. So at that point, you know, you'd think they would look at his ear, but they said, no, you can address that with your primary care. This is the cardiac floor. Well, she'd had enough, my friend, so she went up to the nurse's station when there were lots of people around, and she went up to the nurse's station, and she said, excuse me, where's the ear floor? And they looked at her like she was crazy. Well, ma'am, there's no ear floor. There's not. Well, they won't address my husband's ear problems here on the cardiac floor, so I assume there must be an ear floor somewhere around here where I could go find a doctor who can look at ears. So All right, guys, I had to share that because it was just too dang funny. And I just noticed for myself that I'm not, and I haven't gone to maybe those extremes, but I'm certainly, as I get older, I'm more outspoken and I'm willing to call people on their silliness. And I just think that's darn silly. If you're in the hospital, and I'm not a medical practitioner or anything like that, so I just think if you are in the hospital and you have an ear problem, there should be somebody to help address your ear. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Otherwise, okay, where's the ear floor? So, all right, I hope you guys enjoyed those couple of stories. And if you stuck around, I appreciate it. You just never know. I started vlogging, and sometimes I just like to share just the funny things that I hear in the world, and it just gets better and better all the time. So, all right, I'm gonna go now because I've got to go into the store and I got to get cat food because I'm the crazy cat lady now, apparently, and a couple more items. And yeah, so you guys have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye.